Well, it's time to break down another Dave Canales press conference right here on Roll Coverage, the home of the press conference breakdown. My name is Nick, your host, and today we're diving into the Tuesday press conference from Dave Canales ahead of the Buffalo Bills preseason game. We're obviously putting a lot of people on the bench, and I do not expect Bryce to start, or really any starters to start in this game, just because I just don't think that's what Dave wants to do. Week one is when this team will fully take the field 100% healthy as we can. But without further ado, don't want to delay him. Let's find out where Dave has his head today, right here on Roll Coverage.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
Nope. They roll coverage. Great practice today. This week is so critical, so important for us as we continue to ramp the guys up, getting ready for gameplay. You know, really this is the last week to attack it in terms of a volume standpoint, because, you know, we come back after this game, we got a bunch of tough decisions to make. We get really tighter with our roster, and that's a chance for us to keep sharp on our football, keep the conditioning we've developed, but really this is the week to really establish you guys are ready to play. And they look great today. They handled a significant volume that we threw at them today, getting them back out there quickly with both groups, the ones and the twos, to just keep working that volume. So I was really excited about their response. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better group of guys. The things that I challenged them with in our team meetings in the morning, they respond. It's just like, for me, it's like coming into a new team. I don't know what to expect. You know, am I going to have to really push guys to get the, you know, the intensity and the style that we're looking for? But this is a group that already knows how to work. But then now we're just talking about the style of how we work, and they've been great that way.
Okay, so if you've been on a breakdown with me, you know Dave Canales does his little beginning speech. It's not a prepared speech, but I'm not really sure how to categorize it. He always wants to hit on certain points, and we always try to get something out of there. So obviously he understands that we're having to titrate down the roster to our 53 here soon. The game is literally around the corner. We have so much change, not only in the pass rush, but in the secondary, middle linebacker, or just a linebacking group in general is an interesting place where we can add. And of course, we need that depth with the offensive linemen, given the injuries that we have. And of course, we still have Dalton nursing an injury. We still have Deontay Johnson, who tweaked his ankle today at practice. There are so many injuries, and unfortunately, the injury bug has bitten our Carolina Panthers. And I don't know if this is something that can be fixed. I believe we're going to have 30-plus inactives on this next game against the Bills. Hey, if we end up playing less, or playing more guys, and having less inactive, great. We're taking a step towards the first week, but I do not expect Bryce to play a single down, a single series of any part of this preseason, like I've continued to say, and I'm going to hold true to that. So we obviously got to see where we're moving from here. We got to get updates on some of the injuries that happened during this practice day. And then, of course, what are we looking at for the rest of the week ahead of this game against the Bills?
Dave, the Bills have announced that they're not going to play their starters.
Yeah.
What's your outlook on that, and do you plan to play yours?
I'm open to playing our guys this week. The same thing I told you after the game is true, though. We have to look at what does that group look like if we put everybody out there. Are there enough of those guys to say, man, this is valuable for us to get these reps? Once we start to get into the depth of different positions, that kind of forces our hand sometimes on, can we play guys or do we need to play them? You know, so again, today was a hard practice. Tomorrow is going to be another hard one. So for me, I have to make sure we get through these 2 days, and I collect that information and make the decision as we go forward.
It's interesting in that moment when he's like, hey, you know, if we're going to make that decision, and then he adds on that extra little caveat.
Forces our hand sometimes on, can we play guys or do we need to play them? You know, so
because I believe if he leaves it in that moment, a lot of people are going to say, oh, are you not going to play Bryce because you don't feel like he has enough experience and he's not ready? No, I just need to put a fully healthy roster out there on week one because I'm obligated to put out teams for each of these preseason games, which is what Dave pretty much said at the beginning. He's like, I have to have a roster for these games, like a good enough roster to be able to make it through it. So I think that was the whole plan the entire time, just get through the games and use that as evaluation for the guys that are on the fringe. Now, obviously, there's a few guys I'm hoping makes the roster, and there's obviously some guys I hope don't, like TMJ. But hey, I think it's maybe time for my Carolina Panthers to move on, start progressing into the future of what this team is, and I just don't see him being a part of it, for example. Not saying Dave, TMJ, I mean.
Bill's decision impact yours, Dave? I guess I've heard from some people that say if it's a bunch of second and third teamers on the other team fighting for a spot, they might be a little more gung-ho and put your guys at injury risk.
It does not. It's really just about the strength and health of our units, and if we can, get a good look of, the guys and get them that game experience, which we all know is so valuable.
Hypothetically, let's say you do play the starters and Bryce is out there. What are you wanting to see from them?
Operation, right? Just want to see things run smoothly. I'd want to see just the communication, the in-between drives, conversations, all that stuff that is so valuable, and he's kind of been just, around all those things as we've been doing it the last few weeks, hopefully to pick up some of those things.
In your experience in the league, what's the difference between a snap in a joint practice, snap in a preseason game when you don't know who you're going against necessarily?
Big difference, tackling to the ground. So you're going to get an elevated speed just naturally. Guys, we're pushing our guys to go full speed all the time. But as we know, they get into this competitive moment, and when the jersey color changes and it's someone new, there's an excitement to it. There's just naturally an excitement to that part of it. But we're not tackling to the ground. We're certainly not, cut blocking anywhere, and we're not doing some of the things that we would normally do in a normal game setting, so there's still a big difference. It's like it's amazing to me always the levels of speed that our players take it when it goes from the most competitive thing you can create in a practice to what happens in the game, and the adrenaline and all those things and the lights and all the excitement of that. So that Andrew, pretty good.
Okay. I have done a lot of these breakdowns. I think I'm on like 30 total breakdowns. Literally everything Dave Canales has put out from the day he was hired. In fact, I did a breakdown December 9th, 2023, and said when he came to our Carolina Panthers, I would have my arms wide open for him. That's how much I believed in Dave Canales. I believed in him before most Panthers fans even had him on the radar as a head coach. But what I'm seeing right here is a bit standoffish. What I'm seeing is him kind of, I'm not going to be able to get it the best on this camera just because it's really bad camera, but he's really pushing his shoulders back. And when he goes to answer these questions, like the question right before this one, he immediately ends the question. Whereas normally he's more of a titrating off. He's more of like, hey, how's it? I'm not going to say he was cordial every time he asked questions, but you could see there was like a genuine like, hey, what's your question kind of thing. Whereas this one, looks like he's just trying to get through the questions. This is something that I've talked about briefly before in a few of the other Dave Canales breakdown videos, but it seems like this powering down of what I'm calling it that we saw with Frank Reich last year, where he was super happy and super upbeat for the beginning press conferences, and as time went on, they slowly just got more and more draining. I feel like this is one of those moments, not in an anger, not of a sadness or anything like that, but anxiety. One of the things that I said when I originally did the Dave Canales breakdown way back in December was that he looked kind of jittery and all over the place. That's not what this is. This is, I'm looking you straight in the face. We're getting this question over with. I'm going to try and give you a little bit of flowery language, but there's obviously something more in there. There's something that's bothering him. Hopefully he, gets a question that gets it out of him, but there's obviously something there that Dave is concerned about. If you know, make sure you put it in the comments because I'm thinking it's the offensive line. I think that's the big worry. That's why he doesn't want to put Bryce out. But maybe I'm wrong.
Dave, go ahead. Dave, I know you don't want to get into the concepts that you use, but how has been the learning process with not just veteran players, but the younger players with the concepts you plan to implement?
Yeah, it's been a challenge for them. We're throwing all the words at them throughout this camp, and really the installs of new things probably stopped about 2 weeks ago. But now what we get into is reformationing, doing it out of a different personnel, a different presentation. Same thing for the defense. Can we get tighter and tighter on holding what we're doing so we're not giving any tells, all those things. It's all the minutia that really, on Sundays makes a difference for, holding your cards and setting things up, so that's the part we wanted them to feel in the last 2 weeks is as we change the pieces. This guy's used to running this route over here, and all of a sudden he's on the opposite side of the formation. Challenging him that way, that's been a great challenge, especially for the young guys who are first time kind of through some of these NFL concepts.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Obviously, the offense is going to be retooling, I think, all year. I do think we're going to have some issues at wide receiver. And again, Dave Canales' offense, if you've seen my other breakdowns of him, is notorious, especially at the Bucs, where a lot of people, loved his resume. Would get off to slow starts. He's that the mid-zone run kind of guy, running the running back behind the guards instead of the tackles. So we're going to see a lot of that, I believe, and I think that's going to rear its ugly head quickly, as well as a lot of 12 personnel. So think about that, because that's something that he is notorious for as well.
That's what I was going to ask you, is like how much of the offense is in? It's like, so the offense is already in, it's just now creations of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. And so it's been in for probably, I would say, the last 10 days to 2 weeks or so. And now it's just about challenging them with new presentation.
Anybody that's been injured, anybody close to returning at all? Thomas or?
Yeah, Dave, at this point, I kind of want to keep that a little bit closer to the vest, the closer we get to the season, with those guys. But, we got a bunch of guys that, are working really hard. They're doing all their stuff. They're progressing well. And so, you saw Tommy. Tommy's been out there. He looks great. He's a guy that the plan we had for Tommy was fantastic, and he's ramping up and getting ready to go. So.
Oh, that's good to hear, because again, that 12 personnel means that Tommy's going to be in there pretty regularly, most likely as a blocker, or maybe a block and fade kind of guy or something like that. I see Sanders being the true receiving tight end, and I would expect him to have more receiving yards this year than Tommy. So if you're in fantasy, I would probably just wait and take Sanders in free agency, because nobody's going to take him. Just because he's a rookie and he's on the Carolina Panthers. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Same thing with Jonathan Brooks. He's a good go get him super, super late, whether or not it's the last pick of the draft or something like that. But when he comes back in week 3-4, I would expect him to really start breaking out. I think there could be potential that even though he starts 5 games or 4 games into the season, that Jonathan Brooks can still be a 1,000-yard rusher, especially if it's the Dave Canales run scheme. Now, whether or not we're able to execute that is something completely separate, and that's really what I'm looking at. What does the offensive line look like? Because if we're not able to advance the ball, our defense might not be able to get off the field, which could be a whole other problem added on to this pressure cooker of issues. So,
Deontay came up kind of gimpy on one play, and then he re-entered practice, made a catch almost immediately. What happened there? Did you see that?
I didn't see it. He was fine though. It was like a play or two. He was back out there running.
You said after the Jets.
Again, is it weird to you? It just seems odd to me. He seems not combative, but I don't know. He's upset by something. Maybe the result of the game, the execution of the plays, the scheme, the guys understanding it. I know we have a lot of highlights from training camp and from mini camp and all this other stuff. But I need to see plays in games, guys. I need to see you guys really get some stuff done. So I think that's what he's worried about. I think that he sees that the team is not in a place where he wants it to be, and he knows week 1 is going to be a tough one at the Saints. Obviously, Derek Carr can win us the game, and win the Carolina Panthers the game. But this offense and defense still needs to be able to show up week 1. And again, I'm worried that that's going to be the first time they're all out on the field together for the first time.
Practice, you were concerned about Chandler's hamstring, and he's back in pads on Saturday. What's up there?
Yeah, best news we could have gotten there. Just he's healthy, he's out there, he's rolling. So I think more so is just a little bit of a scare, which happens to these guys. When things happen in a competitive environment. So I'm glad he's back.
Dave, when you're looking at the depth of the safeties room that you got, how do you evaluate which safeties could maybe play nickel, which safeties could maybe play a different position at maybe on the outside of the cornerback? How do you go about evaluating that and choosing which players go where on it?
Yeah, just through exposure and practice, And if a guy hasn't done it at this point, that's not something we're expecting him to all of a sudden, start to understand and grasp, But I think we've only used a couple guys like throughout the spring and the summer that have kind of cross-trained there.
Okay. Again, I'm worried. That's really the summary of my thoughts of the 2024 Carolina Panthers is worried.
Worried?
But at the same time, this Dave Canales, it looks like he's almost going through the different versions of how he's answered these press conferences. Like I said at the beginning, shoulders back and everything. Maybe it was just something had happened before this and he was kind of letting it bleed over. But now the shoulders kind of get more relaxed. You're starting to see a little bit more of what makes Dave Canales a people person or an optimist bully, as Baker Mayfield called him. But he's slowly opening up. But again, that furrowed brow is something. I'm just not sure what it is.
What was the deal with Luton, and how does that impact your quarterback plan for Saturday?
Yeah, Luton had something muscular in his shoulder. I was just really grateful that he came, short notice to help us out do that, and he did a fantastic job. He prepared under really short notice the first game, and then he had kind of some more games to do that. So it really, unfortunately, he isn't able to, finish this part with him. But again, another great opportunity for Jack Plummer, to get these valuable reps that is this time of year for a lot of the quarterbacks around the league who just aren't going to play for a while. Because all of us plan on playing our starter the whole season, and so these are just such critical reps for him right now, and I'm so glad that he was able to take a step from week 1 to week 2, make some more throws, looked a lot more comfortable, and certainly the understanding and grasp of what we're doing has always been there, but it was more just settling in and playing with those guys.
Okay, so our head coach just tried to heap praise on Plummer. You got to be kidding me, right? This dude should be a plumber. Not even joking. He's not an NFL quarterback. I understand he's 6'5", but we're the Carolina Panthers. We don't care about height, apparently. So why are we picking a 6'5" or in Luton a 6'6" guy to be a quarterback when our starting quarterback is 5'10"? That makes no sense. We should be picking 6 foot or below quarterbacks, so this way they benefit the system that's going on. But no, the minute Dave Canales gets the opportunity to put somebody back there, he doesn't pick a guy that's 6 foot. He doesn't pick a guy that's 5'10". That was David Tepper's pick 2 years ago. He's picking Jack Plummer. Canales, you're going to make me look bad if you get fired this year, my guy.
The knee injury for Lamar probably more serious than you thought it was, maybe during the game, or is that like an injury? Obviously, you waived injured him. Is that something timeline-wise that you just couldn't?
Again, I want to stay away from timelines right now.
Was Jake's injury, or does Jake's injury impact your decision-making on whether to play Andy Dalton in this game, Bryce Young in this game?
It could. We got to evaluate Andy all the way through the week, see what we feel about there. And Jack's playing. He's going to play at some point. So,
Dave, with the corners that were out there kind of today rotating through, how different is it when you're kind of looking at a guy on off-season as maybe a depth player, and now all of a sudden one of those guys probably has to start in New Orleans?
What a great opportunity, right? What a great chance for these guys to apply all the things that they've been learning, the things they've been going through for camp, and especially just all the valuable reps, that the information we have on Deshaun Jameson, on DiCaprio Bootle, on Lamar Jackson, and then we had 2 corners who just showed up today, and so we get to evaluate new people as coaches. Like, I hate when guys get hurt and we don't have them, but then there's an excitement that I also have to kind of, hey, let's check out a couple of these new guys, and see if they can help us going forward. But it's about the opportunity, and it's a great opportunity for them to showcase what they can do as we make decisions after this next game.
I would agree. I like the idea of us trying out more guys, trying to figure out that diamond in the rough, that 7th round guy that's going to end up being a Hall of Famer. I love that development. But the Carolina Panthers have established a precedent with Brian Burns, with Christian McCaffrey, with DJ Moore, that they're not going to truly build around anybody that's not a quarterback. So the big-time guys that we're going to have to go out there and get in free agency are going to need to get broken off the money to want to come here. Most of the time, I don't think anyone's going to look at the Carolina Panthers besides Adam Thielen for some reason and say, I want to go there because they're going to go to a Super Bowl. If we end up going to a Super Bowl this year, listen, I've already told everybody, I will eat a literal crow live on stream. But that shit ain't happening. So I ain't worried. Water off a duck's back. But this dude has something there, whether or not it's the optimism that's helping him move forward or whatnot. I'm hoping that optimism is able to help him shut out David Tepper and shut out the noise. There's going to be a lot of it, especially after this week 1, week 2, and week 3. If we end up coming out of it 0-3, there's going to be a lot of hate coming out. So make sure you buckle up, Dave. Get us a win. Hopefully that first game.
back and looked at Saturday night, Chau had played outside a good bit.
Yeah.
How did that go for a guy who was kind of learning nickel on the fly?
He did fantastic. He's played outside his whole career. Has had a little bit of nickel exposure, but that's the guy we drafted, to be able to play outside. And, we're counting him to help us in some capacity this year, so he really showed us something cool in the game last week.
Dave,
We'll do a couple more questions. How much?
You told us a couple of weeks.
Okay, so clearly Dave made some sort of gesture, because this is normally about the time that it ends. He's at 9 minutes and 21 seconds. They're normally about 8-9 minutes on these short ones where he wants to get out of there. The way he just looked up, by the way, hilarious face that he leaves on the screen right now. But when he does that, that tells me that there's something bothering him and he doesn't want to do this press conference. Or at least he's not happy that this press conference is continuing to go and he has to answer more questions. So we still have about 3.5 minutes left, and these questions better be good, because these are the ones that Dave didn't even want to honor, didn't even want to deal with. At least that's my opinion.
Ago that the deep ball was going to be coming in practice.
Yeah.
It seems like the last couple of weeks we've seen it more.
Yeah.
Is it hard to not want to come in and push that right away? And what's the benefit of sort of building up to it instead?
I would love to come out and rip 50-yard touchdowns from day one on. That's my heart and soul. Quickest way to win a game is straight line, A to B, throw it to that guy, touchdown. And that sometimes the games work out that way. Our defensive scheme is fantastic. They play their leverage as well. They know how to use their help on these plays. We got guys who understand the scheme, who can run. It's challenging, especially in practice. So they've made it really hard, and we've gotten some. We got one today. We got a couple balls pushed down the field and some near misses. It's like those near misses are the ones that it's just like, that's time on task. That's me to you factor. Learning this player. How does he maintain his speed down the field? Does he have another gear, or does he top out and I got to give him a high ball to maybe high point? We got a bunch of big, powerful guys in that room. So I think it's also just learning the chemistry of how to throw these balls to different players down the field.
Okay. One of the other things to take into account is also Dave Canales' system is built on the run play action that opens up the deep ball. So we need to be able to establish the run first. That's why that offensive line and that mid-zone run is going to be so critical. So the deep ball doesn't come until I can see a 100-yard rusher, until I can see us establishing the run and maintaining that line of scrimmage for a while. Like, we're going to get a lot where it's, 3rd and 6, and he's going to run a sweep to the left or a ball right down the middle, hoping to, make the defense miss. But it's going to be some interesting ones and how the fans are able to receive that as well. Because I don't know if they're prepared for that side of it, the forced run commit.
Sharon, then we're going to do Joe.
Hey, Coach, back here.
Yeah.
You were just saying that next week, obviously, you're going to have some tough decisions.
Yeah.
Like, how big is this game for guys who are really fighting for a roster spot? And how much of a difference can, what they do in this game make?
By the way, this is the first time I've ever seen Dave Canales stand like that, where he looks truly annoyed to have a question coming his way. It's just somebody who does literally a breakdown on every single Dave Canales presser. This is an odd stance.
It's huge. These opportunities, we hold them with the highest regard as a coaching staff. Certainly the players do too. So that we go into all these games with a game plan. We treat these games serious because we know this is an opportunity for these guys for their careers, whether it's here or somewhere else. And we have to regard every practice the same way. These next 2 days, today and tomorrow, these are full padded practices, and we're playing ball outside of not tackling each other to the ground. We're playing ball, so we use all of it to evaluate. But the games, right, to be able to refocus when you're tired, to refocus after a great play, to refocus after a poor play. That tells us so much about the resilience and character of these players, and it's huge, especially for how quickly it gets turned around and we have to make those decisions. I want the decisions to be hard. I don't want them to be crystal clear. I want it to be so gray and marginal that we have to factor all the things in. Special teams, assignment wise, what did he do when he had the ball in his hands on defense? Did he make the play? Did he catch the interception? Is he striking people with his pads? All of those things are so critical.
Okay, so does that tell me that Dave is going to have guys on there that are practice squad demons? but aren't going to be able to put it together on the field. So they're really going to be like, oh man, in practice, man, he's so good. He's lighting it up. I don't know how we do anything without him. And then all of a sudden you put him in a game and you put a decent corner on him and he's moot. I don't love that. It makes me kind of think that maybe Dave might, again, keep guys a little bit too long. And I'm really looking at you, TMJ.
On interceptions, I know creating takeaways is a big point of emphasis. We saw Trevin have another pick today. What is it you've seen in his game that...
There it is. Dave is frustrated. And of course, David Newton gets the last question.
Makes him, I mean, is he just a dude that's got good ball skills, or what is it with him?
I think he's just a natural football player, first and foremost. And while he still has a ways to go, learning the scheme and doing all that, when he's comfortable, he's big and he's fast and he's got great hands. You know, and that's such a rare combination at the inside linebacker spot. But we really have three fantastic linebackers in terms of catching the ball with Shaq, with Josie, and with Trevin. You know, and let me give a shout out to Pete Hansen, you know, and working the drills and making sure they're constantly coming out of their breaks, catching footballs, you know, and being the ball awareness is such a huge thing for our defense, you know. They've done a fantastic job of emphasizing it, and then the talent comes into play. So he has great eyes with his QB's intentions and finishing on the ball.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Hey, as always, thank you, Coach Canales, for doing this press conference. I know that I do them all on you, but I gotta say, man, I'm super excited for the season. I'm super excited for the future. I do agree that our linebacking room could have a really great year if they're going to be one of those, mid-zone merchants. Those guys are just kind of sit there and try and pick off balls. That would be really, really great and really be able to flip the field and help Bryce out in a big way, help this offense out in a big way. But remember, as a Carolina Panthers fan, people don't want to stay here forever. People want to get a job with us, show that they can do something, and then get on out of here, which is where I think Evero is probably headed. He's probably headed to another team next year, so this will be the last year of the Evero system. Again, unless Evero gets the head coaching job by some crazy thing. But I'm worried. I'm just going to leave it at that. We're going to continue my 2024 Dave Canales press conference video breakdown right here on Roll Coverage with one word: worried. This press conference didn't give me a whole lot of faith on where Dave Canales or what Dave Canales is seeing. There's something there. There's something that he's mad about. And if you see how, again, go see how he answered that question to David Newton. That was not a happy camper. He was like, why do I have to end on this guy? And obviously, for Panthers fans only, put out a little bit of a change.org petition regarding Mr. David Newton at ESPN. So make sure you go check that one out as well. It will also be linked in the description. But my name is Nick, host of Real Coverage, the home of the press conference breakdown, where you can see Dave Canales broken down constantly, including my 9-part Who is Dave Canales series that is always linked below. But hopefully you guys can get ready for this game. Enjoy more breakdowns right here with me. And otherwise, have a great rest of the day. Peace.